Well, we are at the beginning of a new year, and maybe you're thinking that maybe this career that you've been in for a while, maybe it's time to change that. So, our next guest talks about steps to recognize when maybe it's time for you to change your career. So, let's check it out.
Building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
All right, Giant Builders, how are you? I hope that you're staying warm. It's a little chilly out these days. Today's guest, oh, you know what, Giant Builders? Don't forget, I haven't mentioned this in a couple episodes. Make sure you like our social media posts, or at least follow us, just because it helps us reach more people. So I really appreciate it. And so today's guest is Stacy Heisey-Terrell. Hi, Stacy, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Yes, I'm Stacy. I'm a career ownership coach. So I help people who need to move maybe out of the passenger side or the rear seat, the back seat into the driver's seat of their careers. And I work with folks virtually across the country who are looking for a new challenge, something new in their next career chapter that may be currently missing. Yeah, I live outside. I'm like, what else can I say? I live outside Philadelphia. I have four teenage daughters.
Ooh.
Yeah, so say a
Oh.
prayer for me when you think of it. I like to talk. There's always lots of activity at my house. Yeah, and I've been coaching for now almost 3 years. Prior to that, I worked in human resources, kind of doing the same thing, but from the corporate angle instead of the individual's angle, which I'm sure we'll get into here as our conversation progresses.
Since we're talking about changes, what inspired your change from HR to coaching?
Yeah, I got to a point in my career, honestly, I was tired of working for someone else and wanted to go out on my own and just thought, gosh, there's got to be a better way where I can still do all the things that I really like to do. I can connect with lots of people, feel like I'm making an impact, but not have a boss and also do that from home. The stars aligned and I went ahead and took the leap out onto my own, and it's been a great decision.
Do you think 2020 kind of leaned people more to that mental thought process? Like,
I think
yeah,
definitely. I think a lot of us were, because it caused us to stop for a minute, right? And
yeah,
think,
well, a year.
yeah, like literally stop, stay where
Yeah.
you're at. And I think for a lot of us, yeah, it was like, is this it? Am I going to risk my life for this job? And I think as it got safer, then to think, what am I really doing? So I have lots of clients who are come to me and they are missing a piece. They're missing something. I want more income, or I'm missing my kids' things. I want to be home for that. I'm missing an impact or a legacy that I want to leave in my profession or my family, my community, and taking time to re-examine how do your career goals align with your personal goals, your family's goals. Is your career helping you towards that, or is it almost a distraction pulling you away?
Yeah. What are some of like biggest fears when considering a career change?
Yeah, it's scary. It's super scary to do something new. And that doesn't get easier as we get older, right? It tends to get even maybe a little harder. But I think a lot of times people, it might raise up some fear. I don't want to start over in something. I've already
Mhm.
gained respect or gravitas in my current position. I don't want to start over. And so they dismiss it right away, not thinking that, oh my goodness, this terrific experience and skill and connections and network that you've built over your entire career. A lot of times that is immediately transferable into something that might be a little more aligned, a little more life-giving. Yeah, I think for folks who can take a minute or push through the initial fear, that it's often super gratifying, or they find things that, or reconnect with things that they'd forgotten about in their past or in their network, even things they like to do, things that their family is into that they can line up with. And that can be even just small changes.
Yeah. So what, now let's be real here. Like in your, if you're working for somebody, especially corporations, you're going to have some like rough stages. So what would somebody say is, okay, this is a rough stage or I need a career change? Is there like a line there that you should be aware of?
Yeah, yes, because like nothing's a walk in the park all the time. So, how do you know when it's time for a change? And I think when I talk to clients, I often hear that they've been thinking about this, or there have been little signs for even years of their life, right? That they've ignored. Sometimes life happens to us, right? Like we might encounter a layoff or a relocation or something big that causes us to pause. But I think for anyone, taking a moment to reassess, what are my goals? Is my career helping me towards those? And the answer might be yes. And it's just kind of stinks right now, or it's really busy and that's the season. And then you'll get through the season and it'll be fine. For others, it might be when you stop to think about it. Oh my gosh, yeah, I've been ignoring all these signs or all these little unhappinesses that tell me there's something off. I'm not aligned.
Yeah. But then we have to like self reflect on this process. And is
Yeah.
there a way, or do you have some kind of process to self reflect on the situation?
Yeah, and I think for a lot of us, we spend that strategizing and long-term planning energy like gets used up at work or on our teams or on our families, our friends, our parents, our kids, and we're not selfish about saving a little of that for ourselves. So I think a coach, some of what I add as a coach is a little accountability. Let's take a whole hour this week and think about you and go through maybe some structured activity to define and write down what are those big goals on the horizon, and think about, is your career helping you towards them? Is it pulling you away? What could be different?
Yes. I know, okay, I have experience with a family member who had worked up really high in the technology area. The point where this person actually could not, they wanted to move to a different state, but was not able to find a company in that area because his training and his work was so focused. I mean,
Uh,
how do you consider like what I've learned can be transferred into my own job or another job, or what should I do if I find out that, oh, I'm really not able to move from this company?
or I've worked my way into a niche.
Yeah.
I think in those cases, yeah, that can be super challenging. And that kind of that pull back out of the weeds to what are those transferable skills, those capital S
Mhm.
skills. There's leadership skills, planning. Everybody needs a project manager, team building, hiring, slimming down functions and finding efficiencies, identifying some of those big skills and then working from there. What do I enjoy most about that? Is it really the technical piece? Okay, then that kind of gives you a clue. You've got to stay in that niche. But for a lot of people, those special skills might have gotten them to where they are, but now they're really enjoying something else. Is it leadership? Is it strategy? Is it building? Is it identifying talent? Is it mentoring that talent? What is it? And how can you find that someplace else? How can you apply those principles? So again, sometimes it's helpful going through some exercises or talking to a complete stranger and explaining what is it that you really like to do that you have to bring to the table, and then getting creative about how would someone in a different industry use that skill? How would a different job title? How could I apply that to business ownership? Could I go out on my own and do even more of that that might still get me to my goal, but fill my day more and more with the things that I like to do?
So what does a first meeting look like with you as far as if somebody's coming to talk about changing their career?
We spend a lot of time on goals and identifying those goals. Sometimes we set goals in when we're first starting out in our early 20s and we haven't gone through a goal setting process really for years. So we work on income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals. What are those pillars that, and maybe what's the tallest pillar in that stack that we're working towards? And then from there, start identifying what are those big skills that transcend job title and industry? What are things that are missing from your career? So sometimes I'll hear people say, I used to have a team and I loved it, but I've been restructured and now I don't have that team anymore and I miss it. Or I used to be able to mentor and now I don't have time to do that. How could I get some of that back? So again, we might feel a little ache that's gone and not be able to articulate it. So we try to get that down in the first session. What are those environments that you really enjoyed, really thrived in? And then is your career pointed towards your goals? Where do we need to look? Is it maybe an add-on or is it a total change? How do we start thinking about that and exploring options?
Do we need to think of a completely different thought process or mindset to work through this? We might be completely going in a different direction. What do we need to do with our thoughts to keep us going in that area?
Sometimes I encounter that with clients, right? Who maybe like your relative has worked really hard, has gotten a certain job title, has a corner office, has a parking spot, whatever those things are, and then all of a sudden says, those were my goals when I was 25. I wanted to hit all these goals, but now I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to visit my adult children. I want whatever those things are. And so sometimes that is the hardest part is kind of redefining or figuring out what does success look like in this season of your life. And it's admitting to yourself like that might be really different than the success I'm living right now. How do I bring my family along, my partner along, my friends along? If I'm ready to exchange some income for some lifestyle now or vice versa. So,
A little income for some freedom.
yeah, people get in their minds like I need to be working for that income, and then you say, why? Why?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't get to, I wanted to go to Europe. I wanted to relocate. I wanted to take the kids and I couldn't, or they were calling me, or I couldn't relax. And so figuring out like, what is it that you really want, that you really need, but also what you want
Mhm.
to happen. And sometimes that switch happens gradually as our lives go on, but we don't take a minute to go, oh yeah, I'm in a totally different spot now. Yeah.
Yeah. My husband jokingly says often, there's times in your life where you have the money and you don't have the time, and then the rest of your life you have the time and you don't have the money.
Right?
So
Yes.
you need to keep that balanced while you're young.
And figuring it out. When we think too, like our corporations, they're doing a strategy program every couple years, every kind of season or something happens, we got to re-strategize about it. But we're not doing that individually for our lives. We'll have, when the kids were little, it was this or that. When I was young, it was this or that. Now my parents, I've got to look out for them. And my goals have shifted and changed.
Yeah.
And how do you identify what in your career is growing with you and evolving with you through those cycles, and what needs to go away, and maybe we need a better fit.
Yeah. You had shared with me before we started recording that there's a book that you also used in your program. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So our book called Your Career Revolution was written by our founder, Terry Powell, and other independent entrepreneur coaches. And our book really talks a lot about kind of how do you find your you 2.0. Often we're down the road a bit and our you 1.0 is lost a little luster. And it might be time to
I'm on
define.
5.0.
Yeah, some of us are a little further. We're on the you, whatever the new iPhone, new 12A. How do you think about that? What are some problems? We call them F words that come up where we feel frustrated or want some financial freedom or want to exercise our financial freedom. Friends and family might be holding us in a outdated idea of success and they're fearful about change and the impact to their lives. So how do we think about those things, identify what the issues are, and then find data to shine lights in those corners, those scary corners?
There's so many sources now to search out the data with, especially with AI.
Yes. And I think too, again, early in our careers, we're encouraged like do an informational interview and talk, find someone in your network. And then we get older and we're like, oh, we don't need to do that. But sometimes that can be really fun. What if I want to do more project management or more budgeting or whatever that is? How do you really leverage your network or ask them how can they help you and be specific about what it is that you're looking for? Sometimes that can be really gratifying and confidence boosting too.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
Yes. So if any of your listeners are feeling that itch of, yeah, I might not totally be aligned, it might be time to think about my strategy to pause for a moment. I'd love to talk to them. So my session is free. People can easily get to me through my website, which is
I'll have
my
this linked
life.
below.
And it's a link below. Perfect.
Yeah.
It's my life, my biz, biz, and that pops them right into my contact card or my calendar. And we should talk. So if you've that nagging feeling, we can address that. Shouldn't live with that.
Yeah. Unless there's no age limit to changing your career.
No, not at all. I just read an article that said some of the most successful entrepreneurs and business startups are started by people in their 50s and 60s. At that point, we know a thing or two and
Yeah.
shouldn't be as afraid to go ahead and try some new things. Yeah, or at least explore.
Yeah. All right, Giant Builders, make sure to reach out to Stacy if you're just wondering if maybe you should change your career or your direction, or you just need to make sure you're enjoying life. That's the important thing. God doesn't want you here dreading every morning when you go to work. I've had a job like that, and it was not fun.
It's too short,
Yeah,
right?
I was like, oh, these days are forever. Thank you, Stacey. I really appreciate your insights and just
Thank
sharing with the
you.
listeners. So, all
Thank
right, Giant
you.
Builders, we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.